Marketing Your Private Practice is a podcast where you'll learn easy to implement tips and strategies to grow your business without spending all day online. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and I teach practitioners the Thrive marketing method to create simple and streamlined plans by focusing on long-term strategies, not just social media. Discover ways to spend less time on your marketing, attract more clients, and build the financial freedom that comes with a thriving practice. One where you have time left in your day for the people and things that matter to you. Hey, private practice heroes. Thanks for tuning into the podcast today. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and I am so happy you're here listening in. I have a special formula I want to share with you today, marketing formula, and it will help you avoid one big mistake folks make with their messaging when they're in a very specific situation. And I often see it come out in this one place, and almost always this only one place. It's when you have that moment to tell people your good old elevator pitch. Now, don't ditch me here today because I'm talking about the pitch. We've all had these moments in the sun where we get to stand up and say, or these days sometimes unmute and share our elevator pitch. And I love these opportunities because it is a moment where you get to share a quick business introduction of what you do. And it almost always happens in situations when you have permission and time to speak about your business. Typically, there's an audience in front of you some way, somehow. And most of the time, there is an implied permission that you can sell or pitch about your business. So it's a great opportunity. And when you have these opportunities, you never want to waste them. Yet that is exactly what I see happen time and time again. Practice and business owners end up saying words and sharing a message that does the exact opposite of what that moment is intended for. They do an elevator pitch where they're repelling instead of attracting clients. So my goal today is to make sure you understand a little more about this messaging mistake that can happen in these elevator pitch moments, why it's a problem, because I'll be honest, some people don't think it is, and how to fix it so that you can avoid this whole issue in the first place. So how does this mistake happen? Well, when I look back at situations I've experienced over the past year, which, to be honest, was why I was inspired to talk about this today. When I look back at some of the situations this past year that were really the inspiration for this episode in the first place, it's situations that I've either experienced in some networking groups I'm part of, whether they're online and virtual or in person, or sometimes it happens with some of the members of my Thrive Marketing Academy. And I'll be honest, I did this too when I started in business because I find there's a very similar reason why it happens with some people. So let me share what I used to do, and I want to see if you can guess what the mistake is. So what I'm going to do here is give you my elevator pitch of what I used to say back in the day when I started my first business as a virtual assistant. We're talking 2008 here. So I would be networking at different groups, almost always in person back then, but I did a lot of online probably after the first year or two. And this is pretty much word for word what I would say when I had that moment to stand up and do my elevator pitch. And for me, when I started out, it typically happened in my business networking group. We were a group that met every week and we would do referral networking. So it's one of those groups where only one person from a certain type of industry can be part of the networking group. So these were folks that I knew a lot. And when I started, this was pretty much what I would say as I was starting off and doing my elevator pitch. So here we go. Ready? Hi. Well, for over 13 years, I worked with the Royal Bank of Canada, and I started there first as a bank teller. And I did some other jobs there until I finished at my last one when I was working in their wealth management department. So then I took 7 years off to be home with my 3 kids, and I did a lot of volunteer work during that time. And as a volunteer, I learned to do a lot of things that I guess you would call marketing now. So I was making websites with Microsoft's front page system and doing PDF newsletters and certificates, helping out some nonprofit groups that I was part of and helping out because my kids were in them. I would do things like graduation year-end certificates. And, it's funny, I used to call myself a full-time volunteer. But then about a year ago, we were getting ready to move, and someone I knew talked to me about starting a business because she thought I would be good at it. And so she thought I should start my own business. I'd never even thought about being a business owner. So I took some time while we did the move and I was packing our houses to look into it. And after 4 months or so, I decided it was a good idea. So that's me. I started a business and I'm doing a training program that's helping me to run my business. And I'm now working from home. And I help business owners, all sorts of business owners, people that are really busy and need help with their business tasks. And a lot of the time, what I'm doing is the kind of work they don't like to do because it's administrative type of work. So I do like that I can work from home and spend time with my 3 kids too. And so that's where I am now. And that's my business. And it's really nice to be here. And thank you so much. And then I would sit down. Number one, it went on for a long time, as you can hear. But then someone would inevitably say, "What's your business name?" So then I would realize that sometimes I forgot to tell them my business name. And in a lot of cases, when I started off, I wouldn't even say my actual name. I wouldn't say that I was Kathy. So then I would add something like, "Oh, sorry, my business is Time on Task VA Services, and I have a website for that you can find online." And that would be the end of it. And I mean, it was so painful. Now, it's not word for word. I am exaggerating slightly, but I'm going to be honest. That is really close to some of the first elevator pitches that I did when I started out. So based on that, if I asked you right now from that intro, can you tell me what I'm offering people, what my business is and what I'm doing for them? All the important messages that I should have shared when I had that moment in the sun were totally hidden in a lot of the rambling, as I call it now, about how I got to be at the meeting and how I started my business and why I was there networking with the fellow business owners. But the people around the table, whether they were, new to the group, new to me, or what they wanted to know is what most people want to know when you are sharing your elevator pitch and you have that moment to tell everybody about you. They want to know who you are, what you're doing, what services you offer, what your business is, maybe even your name. I can't tell you how many times I forgot to say the name of my business too. And back in 2008, when someone said VA services, people often thought you meant Veterans Affairs, not virtual assistant, because virtual assistant was still really new back then. They didn't often have a clue from the intros that I would do, what kind of business I had, or even close to understanding what services I offered. None of that important information came into play here, and people were left with a little bit of a story that didn't really tell them much about me and my business and what I was doing now, why I was there at the networking event. And that's the mistake. It's a really common mistake. I find it does happen more often with new practice and business owners, because when you're new, you're in the same situation I was back then. You're unsure, how do you make an effective introduction of yourselves? How do you do that elevator pitch? And I mean, the minute we call it a pitch, to be honest, we're all worried about, I don't want to sell to people, especially the folks that I help with. They don't like to sell. That's what they want, to help heal and make people's lives better. So the word sell or pitch or sales can be really scary. And this is something that just happens when, whether it's a planned event where, like for me, I was going every 2 weeks to networking events and doing this business networking event every week. But what happens when we get that moment to share about ourselves and our business, sometimes the panic sets in. And we talk, and so many words come out that we did not plan, and soon it turns into so many words that are unnecessary, even rambling. And any message that you were trying to share is gone. It just disappears because everything is too confusing. The clarity with your audience has totally gone out the window. in the confusion of them trying to understand your long-winded and rambling words and message. So anytime that you have that opportunity to do your business intro, to do your elevator pitch, if you don't want to call it an elevator pitch, call it your business intro. It's a lot less scary. But when you have this opportunity, you want the people listening in to absolutely 100% understand what you say, and more so what you offer clients with your services. Yet what happens, what I did as an example there, again, very exaggerated, but I'll be honest, I also used to call myself the queen of 3-hour consults. So you can imagine what was going on in those consults. I was talking and saying way too much information. And that's what happens with this marketing mistake that I talk about when it comes to your elevator pitch. A lot of people tend to do exactly what I did there, especially when you are a new business owner. You lead off with some history of how you came to be in business and how you came to be a business owner versus sharing the information about your business of today, what you are doing right now in this moment. Because you're there, that meeting, that event, wherever you're at, you're sharing your business intro because you're there as a business owner, as a private practice owner. Now, that history you 100% may come into play as part of your story. But in these moments that you have like this, these moments in the sun, having clarity with your elevator pitch is much more important than anything else. People want to know what you're doing today, not your life's history. So if that backstory goes into some sort of rambling type of introduction where you do a lot of your background, explain where you got into this and how and why you started, they're not seeing what the real you is doing today. And they're not hearing about the services that you offer right now to people today. They're not hearing about what people can hire you for if they wanted to do that right now. Instead, they're hearing more about what you did in the past. And again, that might be part of your story, but unless you can distill that story down into one line, leave it out for now. And there are definitely ways you can do this. If you do want to know more, though, about adding story to your content and your marketing, I did cover some of this recently on a free marketing review that I did with a young entrepreneur here in Halifax, Cameron McNeil. And we did that in episode 107. So you can go back and listen to that. But when we're looking at elevator pitches, you have to very clearly and with very few words, put your story in there or just leave it out for now until you get more practice at doing it and more comfortable. And elevator pitches that have extra words, they simply don't have the clarity you need in that moment because these moments you don't have very much time. In the groups that I'm part of, we get 30 seconds, maybe a minute, depending on the situation. So you have that very limited amount of time to be able to get people to understand 5 things. And there's 5 things that they should get when you do an intro like that. They should understand, number 1, who you are, who you help is number 2. The problem you help people solve is number 3. Number 4 is what happens to people who do get your help. What kind of transformation do they experience? And then the 5th thing is they should have some idea of who your business is and how they can contact you. Now, I'm not saying do an entire, big, long call to action. Sometimes you can do this very simply, and that's what you should always think about doing. Simple, short, and sweet when it comes to elevator pitches. But those are the 5 key things that anyone in an audience hearing you introduce yourself should know and understand when you are finished doing that intro or that pitch. And this is why you don't want to mess up these moments with a lot of rambling information. You want to have clear messaging and a very clear elevator pitch or intro so that people know and understand that big message you really want to share. And I've said it before, I'll say it time and time again. That clear message is the big difference between confusing people and getting more clients. Clarity over confusion will always win when it comes to marketing your business or your practice. And that's what will happen if you follow my elevator pitch formula. Instead of confusing folks, you will know and understand how to put your message together so that people clearly get what you're saying and understand it the first time you say it. They'll know those 5 things about you, even if all you had was 30 seconds. And in doing this, you help the audience who does hear that message be able to clearly identify not only whether or not they could be a potential client that you could help them personally, but that pitch, that intro also needs to make it clear that if there's anybody that they might know who has the same kind of problem, then they know that you could help them. And that could turn them into a referral source for you. So I hope you are ready to listen to the 5-step formula that I have here, my elevator pitch formula. And if you follow along with these steps and put them into your own elevator pitch or less salesy business intro, that will help you ensure that you're not rambling when you get that next moment in the sun, as I like to call them. So either grab your pen and paper and write down these 5 elements as we go through this, or once you're done, what I'll do is I'll make an image with these 5 elements and put them on the show notes page for this episode. And that way you could download the image and print out this formula to use it and follow along. And you'll find those show notes in the notes wherever you're listening to the podcast here, or you can visit marketingyourprivatepractice.com/109. All right, so let's dive into step 1 of a 5-step formula to an effective elevator pitch. Number 1, you have to make sure you introduce yourself and your business. You got to tell them your name, and ideally you want to tell them your business name too. There are some good ways that you can do this as short as possible. If you've ever heard me do mine of late, not my old ones from back in 2008, but sometimes there are some really slick ways that you can do this very, very short. And that's what I do with mine. I typically tend to say something to the effect of, "Hi, I'm Kathy Colaiacovo, founder of pepperitmarketing.com," or I might say owner of pepperitmarketing.com. So I give them my name. I kind of give them some of my business name. What they've gotten from this is that my company is Pepper It Marketing, and they actually now know the website. So I like to try and leave them with that. And the thing is, legally, my company is Pepper It Services Inc., but I don't worry about telling the legal name. I want my introduction to give them some sort of hint as to what the business is and even where they can find it. Okay. So if you can do something like this, try it out because it makes it easier to say the name of your business without going into a few more seconds. And when we're talking 30 seconds, you have to shorten things up as much as possible. So the second step in here is you want to identify your ideal client and their biggest problem. So this is where you want to state, who you help and the problem you help them with. But it needs to be very specific and focused. So in my Thrive Marketing Academy, we work on this a lot in a couple of modules of training, Know Your Client and Know Your Offer. That's where we really work on narrowing down a one-line offer statement. Sometimes we're looking at the main headline that we want to see on a website. But what you're trying to do here in your elevator pitch and your intro is the same as really putting that one-line offer statement together. You want to be able to say some very specific and focused words that help anybody listening to you identify the typical problem that your target audience has and use words that describe it so people can identify with it or at least visualize it. And this is where getting as specific as possible can help you here. That intro that I shared earlier, I was trying to sell to everybody. So we're talking about, I help all sorts of business owners. These days, no, I don't. I help private practice and service-based business owners who are frustrated and tired of doing so much marketing that wastes their time and their money and isn't getting them clients. When you say that, you have a good idea of what an ideal client is for me. So that's where you want to get specific in identifying your client and their biggest problem. The third thing that you want to do is offer a solution briefly. Briefly is really important here. I do not want you going into a long diatribe about all the services you have and the ways you help people. Like, we really don't want details here. Rambling happens, I find, two ways with elevator pitches. One is in the history and how you got here and got to be in this place. The other one is talking about your services and solutions, because most people don't practice these. They don't write them down. And if you try to, you're going to need more than one sentence to put this together. I used to see this happen a lot in some networking groups that I would do pre-COVID in person. And we would go to them. I went to this favorite one that I love to go here locally for women in business. And what would happen is everybody at some point got a 30-second moment in the sun to stand up and do their elevator pitch. And there are two people that I always remember, and I'm going to be honest, I don't remember them in a favorable way, because number one, they would try to, this is where they rambled, is trying to describe their services and what they did with people, and they would get into details because they weren't clear on who the client was and what their problem was and what this simple solution was. They would dive into it and go on and on and on, to the point that the timer, one place that we went to, they actually did a timer, would go off and they would continue to ignore it and keep on talking. And I'll be honest, what they left people with was not a good feeling. We still didn't get their services because it wasn't clear, but we also kept thinking, everybody else stuck to the 30 seconds. Why couldn't you? So you don't want to be that person. You want to really stick to a high level here. And it could be something simple as saying, working with me one-on-one or in my Thrive Marketing Academy program. And that's all you have to say. Or you could say something like, we work together, or I work together with my clients one-on-one developing a custom nutrition plan. That's all you have to say. When you're talking about your services, you do not need to go into any more detail than something like that. So this third step of offer a solution briefly really has to be brief, okay? We're talking about planning these for like 30 seconds. So we don't want 30 seconds to a minute. So you can't go into a lot of detail here. And to be honest, number 4 is more important anyhow. Number 4 is where you share the transformation that they get by working with you. This is where you want to describe the results clients experience when they work with you, and use, again, specific examples if you can, because that will make it more real to the others listening in, and it will help them envision it for themselves or other people. So if they could visualize who your ideal client is and what their problem is, because maybe that's their sister-in-law, and you have a solution and you talk about what they're like in the long run and their transformation they have, believe me, when you describe how that person is going to be or feel or what their life is like after they work with you one-on-one, people are going to be left with that connecting of the dots. That was my sister-in-law. This is totally her problem. Oh my gosh, and that's exactly where she wants to be. I need to get this person to reach out to them. That's the feeling that you want to happen with your elevator pitch, with your intros. So you do need to share their transformation. So this is where you can describe the results clients experience when they work with you. And again, use some specific examples if you can. I like to personally have a couple specific examples, and I have different versions of my elevator pitch that I use in different situations. So number 1, making sure that you know your audience is good. But getting specific with identifying the client and the problem and the transformation can really help tie this together so that people get that absolute clear picture of what you're doing with people, how you help them, and what happens to them. So that's where you want to really put this into words. Again, we're not talking paragraphs, we're talking a sentence, maybe 2. When you have 30 seconds, you do not have a paragraph to talk, okay? But that will lead you to how you're going to finish this off, which is step 5 in this formula. And that's where you want to connect everything together and leave them with a call to action. You want to quickly let people know how they can connect with you or find you. And you always want to leave the door open that you would love to talk, or if they know someone who has the same kind of problem and is looking for this thing, that you offer free consults, whatever it is. Again, this is something you want to practice saying, writing, and putting together so you can put it into one sentence. And I'm going to leave you with a pro tip for number 5 here on the calls to action. Only use one way to connect. Your website is ideal, but I know not everybody has a website ready to go. But the website is the best place. It's one of your key foundations for marketing online. And that's why I tend to say send people to your website, because they'll be able to connect with you from the contact page. You probably have ways they can find you on social media there. You don't have to tell them all of this. You can simply say, if you know anyone, or if that's you and you're looking to change your life in this way, my website is pepperitmarketing.com. Go there, visit the contact page, and reach out. I'd love to talk to you and book a free consult. Bam. Easy peasy. And not a lot of words. Your contact page on your website is really important in this process. So if you want some ideas on tips on how to optimize that page for more consults, be sure to check out episode 102 of the podcast. In there, I gave you some real good structure as to what you can put into a contact page to help book more consults and get more people filling out your forms. I'll link to that episode 102 in the show notes for this episode as well, and you'll find it below where you're listening in. The thing is here, in the call to action, if you try adding multiple ways for people to connect with you, you say my website is here and you can find me on Instagram and go over to LinkedIn and over here, it just is really going to get as confusing as doing some rambling history or some rambling service descriptions, okay? You don't want to be sharing multiple CTAs. That's why I always say the website's ideal and the contact page is key. People are not going to take in all these different ways they can reach out to you, so there's no point in saying it. So you want to be, again, clear, concise, and that call to action should be maximum a sentence, maybe a sentence and a half if you add in a little colon or a semicolon there. And that's it. That's our 5-step formula. It involves introducing yourself and your business, identifying your ideal client and their biggest problem, offering a brief solution of how you work with people, share that transformation and be really specific and describe those results people experience, and then finish off with a call to action to connect with you, and just one call to action. Putting those 5 elements together will help you create an effective elevator pitch. One that is focusing on the present and highlighting the value of your business, your services to potential clients, and even referral sources because of the way you describe it. So putting these 5 steps together from this formula will help you ensure you have the best and most effective elevator pitch possible, so that not only are you going to be reaching more people, but you'll be booking more clients. Now, how about we finish this off by fast forwarding to my own elevator pitch of today, and you can all decide if this is going to pass the test. And I'm actually going to time it too. So let me grab my phone here and hit myself on my microphone. Sorry about that clunking if you heard it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read what I have written, but I'm also going to time me and we'll see how long it takes. So I have 2 here. The first one is going to be one that I do when I have about a minute. And the second one is my second one. And I will hit my timer for them. So we will be testing out live here if Kathy can stick to her own rules. And I'll let you be the judge. You can let me know afterwards if you think that these were more clear or not, and that you understood them the way that I'm suggesting everybody's elevator pitch should be clear and concise so people understand those 5 things. That's what we want to make sure happens with any pitch or intro you do. People need to understand who you are, who you help, what problem you help people solve, what happens to the folks who do get your help, and how they can reach out and contact you. And I'll be honest, that's the same 5 things people want to know when they visit your website. So keep that in mind. This is all about using the same kind of information in your marketing content and your marketing messages. All right, so I'm going to hit start on this first one. Hey there, I'm Kathy Colaiacovo. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the founder of pepperitmarketing.com and host of the Marketing Your Private Practice with Kathy C podcast. I work with private practice and service-based business owners who are frustrated and tired of trying to get clients from marketing that does nothing but waste their time and money. By joining my Thrive Marketing Academy, they learn systems to spend less time on marketing and attract more clients without spending hours a day on social media. When folks follow these lessons, do the one-on-one calls with me and my VIP marketing reviews, they typically finish the program booked with clients or having a waiting list of people who want to work with them. If you want to know how to make that happen for your own business or practice, or know somebody who's looking to do the same, you can learn more about my program on my website at pepperitmarketing.com, and be sure to book a free consult with me. Okay, I got 59.49 seconds, so not too bad. And again, I'll have a spot where you all can send me some feedback. You can message me on Instagram if you want. Let me know what you think of that intro. And I will put both of these intros in the show notes so that you can see them and compare them and kind of look at how they have those 5 elements of the formula in them. All right, now, sometimes we only get 30 seconds. So this one is going to be my 30-second one. So this is where I get a little bit shorter in what I do, and this can be the hardest kind to do, I'll be honest. All right, here we go. I'm Kathy Colaiacovo, founder of pepperitmarketing.com. I work with private practice and service-based business owners who are tired of trying to get clients from marketing that does nothing but waste their time and their money. When they join my Thrive Marketing Academy, they learn the systems that help them spend less time on marketing to attract more clients and not spend hours a day on social media. They typically finish the program booked with clients or having a waiting list. If you want to know how this is possible, visit my website at pepperitmarketing.com. Okay, I did 33 seconds on that. So I was a little over my 30, but if a buzzer ever went off, the thing that they would be missing at the end is the consult with me, but I also had my name and my website at the top at the beginning. So if I was in one of those types of networking groups that I used to be part of where they had the timer going, I would, number one, I would definitely practice it more and narrow it down. But I would also make sure that if I got cut off, the stuff at the end isn't the key part. I already had a way for them to find out who I was and my website at the beginning. So I'll let you be the judge. Did you get lost in any of that? Was it clear to you? I would love to know. Do you know my name, what I do, who I help, and what happens to them, and how to reach out to me? That is the goal of these effective elevator pitches or business intros, because that clarity truly can make or break the results that you're getting when you have that moment in the sun to do your elevator pitch, to stand on your soapbox and tell people those 5 things. That's what we want to happen when you have those moments. Be sure that you're following this formula, try it out. And most often you'll find when you make those changes, you'll see that people understand you more and that you get more people trying to do some follow-up with you, reaching out to talk to you a little more or booking a consult. And those consults, they're the path to more clients. You can clear that path when you have an effective elevator pitch. Your action step from today's lesson here is I want you to look at your typical intro and elevator pitch. Say it out loud right now to yourself. Well, not right now. Finish this off and know what to do next, and then try it, okay? How long is it? Have you ever timed yourself doing it? Does anybody listening to you say those words really get what you do? If not, you might want to take this formula and use these tips to create an updated elevator pitch for yourself. And then test it out on some people. Try it, use it, practice saying it over and over. And you know what? I will happily offer to review it for you and see how it resonates. So if you want me to do that, why don't you DM me on Instagram and share your new and updated elevator pitch with me? You'll find me there at Pepper It Marketing. I'll have a link to that in the show notes here. Or I have a better idea. I have this voice message system online. You've heard me all talk about it before on the podcast. It's called SpeakPipe. So it's a free tool. It's kind of cool. People can send me voice messages. You go to speakpipe.com/Kathy C. So that's KATHYC, and record yourself saying your new and updated elevator pitch. And then what I'll do for everybody that sends me your elevator pitch, I'll post back my thoughts and feedback in an Instagram reel or a story. It is free, so that's why it's going to be out there a little publicly. But don't worry about it. I'm nice in my advice, I'll be honest. And, actually, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, okay, if I get few of them sent in, maybe what I'll do is do a special episode of the podcast and review them all and then offer everybody tips back that will be in a podcast episode. This is also going to be marketing for you if we go ahead and do this. The way you can share your updated elevator pitch or business intro is just visit my online message system at speakpipe.com/KathyC. Have your mic ready, record it, and once you hit send, it just automatically sends it off to me. You do put in your name and email because I do need to know that. And I'll put a link to that in the resources for this episode as well. And that's it for today. This is Kathy Colaiacovo signing off. And remember to thrive in practice or business. It's going to start by making sure anyone and everyone who hears or sees or reads your elevator pitch, because they can happen online in text too. We want them to know exactly who you are, who you help, what problem your typical clients have that you have a solution for, and what happens when they work with you and how that changes their lives. Plus, they should know how to contact you too. And that's it. Have a fabulous day, everybody, and I'll see you next time. You can find all of our show notes and resources mentioned at marketingyourprivatepractice.com. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at pepperitmarketing and say hi. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, and make sure to rate and review the podcast and hit subscribe on your favorite player so you don't miss any future episodes.